2023 recap, guys. It's been an amazing year. Unfortunately, I'm finishing up the year here sick. That's why this video is coming out a little bit late. Usually I try to get it out before the end of the new year, but we'll go into 2024 with the recap of 2023. Let's hop into this. So we started our 2023 with doing some winter camping. Ashley and I got engaged, which was pretty amazing. She never thought I was going to do it. After some awesome winter camping, I continued to build up the Tacoma with the dream of getting ready to live out of it full time. At this time, I've already sold all of our stuff that we had, and we were staying at Ashley's parents as we prepped the truck for this adventure. During this time of prepping the truck and doing some upgrades to it, I added the deck system. I removed the back seat out of the truck to install a fridge in the back there so I can have food stored in the back and not have to worry about ice and coolers anymore. I also added bike mounts to the side of my bed rack there so I can store my bikes out of the way and still have the bed for storage. I also added more stuff to the top of my truck. I added a case with a solar panel on top of that to charge up my power banks that run the fridge in the back of the truck, and I added the Waterport Weekender on top of there to hold 8 gallons of pressurized water so I can be able to shower and clean stuff when we're on the road. I also upgraded the skid plate on the truck as well and added some cat guards that were sent to me. They've been holding up good too, and I added a WeBoost cell phone booster on the truck so I can work and still have connectivity out in the wilderness. But at this point, it was time to really start testing out the truck. I had the base of the truck done, and it was time to go on another trip and make sure it was able to hold up to the adventures I was going to throw at it. The destination for the first trip and this newly upgraded truck was to head down to West Virginia from Pennsylvania. One of my favorite areas down in West Virginia is called Davis. I love camping in that area. There's plenty of mountain biking and breweries to check out. I love it down there, and awesome overland trails. So we went down there for a couple days, and it did show me a few problems I had with the setup, mainly with my power source. It also showed me how good I can expect the WeBoost to work. The WeBoost worked really well down there, and when I say really well, I wasn't getting blazing fast speeds, but it went from having no connectivity down in some of the areas in West Virginia to having some connectivity for me to be able to even post on Facebook or send a text message out, compared to what I had last year without the WeBoost was nothing. That trip there was 4 days long, and then we headed back to PA. Back in PA, I made some adjustments to the truck to prepare for our first really big journey. This was going to be a 30-plus day trip. And after some preparations, it was time to head out and really test this setup for what it was built for. So as a trending theme here, this trip had us starting in PA, heading down to West Virginia where we camped out, then over to Virginia where we camped out for a little bit. Then we went down into North Carolina, camped out in a state park for a little while, and then we headed to a remote island called Cape Lookout. We ferried the truck across the sound side of the ocean to this island where we spent about 5 days camping out on this remote island, exploring, driving around, swimming. It was a blast. After that, we left the island, headed inland to North Carolina, where we hung out in Jackson at a campground. Well, this was the first big lesson to me that I learned was the world doesn't revolve around me because I live out of the truck. People still like to go camping, and I forgot I had to plan ahead to work around other people. This was Labor Day weekend, and I thought I was just going to be able to find a spot a week in advance, and I couldn't find any spots, and I was about 4 hours away from a national forest to be able to get a free spot. We found a really bad campground in Jacksonville right next to the Marines base, and all we listened to that whole time was helicopters and training. It was pretty neat, but it was right off the highway and definitely not a good experience. But a good lesson I learned was the world doesn't revolve around me, and I need to plan ahead if I'm going to be doing this full-time truck living stuff. We ended this 30-plus day trip by heading back up to PA. A tropical storm was moving in and hitting North Carolina in the southern states pretty hard, and it was raining for about 3 days when we left. We headed back up north into PA where the weather was great, and I was able to make some more adjustments to the truck then being back in PA. After we made some adjustments, it was time to head up north and check something off of my bucket list I've always wanted to check out. This plan was to head up north and check out Niagara Falls. I've never seen it before, so we started heading north, camped along the border of New York and PA, and this area has some amazing mountain biking. We stayed there for about 4 days, then packed up and left and headed towards New York. Up in New York, we checked out Niagara Falls. It was pretty awesome because it was during the week, so it wasn't really busy. Then we camped at a campground on Lake Ontario, which was awesome. I never realized that Lake Ontario has such blue water up there, and it was really pretty. This was around the time that the Canadian wildfires were causing some issues down here in the States. But fortunately, at this time that we were up there, the smoke wasn't that bad, and we didn't have to deal with it that much. Then we went and checked out Green Lake State Park in New York. That was very pretty. And then the bad weather started rolling in. and the smoke returned into New York. So we ended up leaving New York, heading back down in the PA. I had some packages waiting for me in PA to upgrade the truck a little bit further. This trip here lasted about 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Back in PA, we had some big changes to make to the truck. At this point, I realized that the add-a-leaves I had in the rear of my truck were not holding up to the extra weight of all the equipment I had to live out of the truck. I was getting a really bad sag in the rear, and I was hitting my hitch off anything when I was off-roading. This was becoming a very big problem, and it looked bad. So I ended up upgrading my suspension to Dobson MRRs with 800-pound leaf packs. This was a game changer for my truck. It made the ride quality way better, and just on road travel, when I was driving around for 10 hours a day sometimes, this was a game changer for me. So I love the suspension upgrade. Also at this time, my dad and I built a DIY power box because I was still having some power issues. The power solution I was using at the time was not handling low wattage DC power output, which a lot of my equipment was using, like my WeBoost and my fridge. The power station I was using would randomly drop down to 0, and I wouldn't have no power. The reason why this was a problem was the power station I was using would take about 3.5 hours to fully charge. So when it would just randomly dump all the power out, that would really affect our day-to-day with living out of the truck. This was the reason why I actually added a generator onto the truck, because it did this when we were out in North Carolina and I had to buy a generator to make sure we had power. Keep in mind, guys, that I was still doing YouTube and I had a full-time job, so having power was very critical to the setup. But back on topic here, we built a DIY solar generator battery box. This was another game changer for the setup, as I no longer had to worry about my power system failing on me. I've had absolutely no issues with this DIY power box at all. This was a must-have and made the truck life extremely better. After those big upgrades were made to the truck, it was time for another long trip. This was going to be a 30+ day trip again. We headed back down south, this time to check out some stuff I've always wanted to check out. As always, we started in PA, headed down into West Virginia, where we camped out one night. We started this trip on a Saturday, and I ended up rolling into this camp spot around 11 o'clock. It was the only camp spot on this road we found. Again, this was another wake-up call for me because it was Saturday, and I didn't think other people would be camping, because I was only thinking about myself living out of the truck, not the other people just getting out there and enjoying the hobby of camping. This was a general theme for me, as my camping experience was no longer a camping experience, it was living out of the truck, and it took a lot of the enjoyment out of camping for me because it was my everyday life. But from down to West Virginia, we headed further down south into West Virginia to check out New River Gorge, which was on one of my lists to check out. This was a pretty awesome national park. I highly recommend checking it out if you're around the area, or just to put it on your bucket list. It was pretty cool. Then we had to find a camping spot with service because, as I mentioned, guys, I am working out of the truck, so I need to have connectivity. This was another issue that started to weigh on me pretty hard, was trying to make sure I was always connected, was taking the fun out of this whole truck living situation. We spent 3 hours looking for a camping spot in this area that had service, enough for me to connect to and do my job. Luckily we found one, but it was a campground, and our neighbors weren't so fun to be around. It was an older gentleman who wanted to talk my ear off the entire time, which when you're on a camping trip on the weekend or during the week, not really a problem. But when I was living out of the truck and just needed to set up my daily life, working, eating, getting my stuff cleaned up from the trip, this was pretty annoying. From southern West Virginia, we continue to head down south, dip through Virginia and Tennessee into North Carolina, yet again, the mountains of North Carolina. We went down into Pisgah National Forest, and this was an awesome area. The mountains there were beautiful. The overlanding there was awesome. There were trails everywhere. There was views every time you turned around. We spent about 3.5 weeks in the mountains of North Carolina, exploring Asheville. I actually spent my birthday there checking out breweries, driving along the Blue Ridge Parkway, checking out the highest peak east of the Mississippi. It was all in all an amazing trip. And luckily, the North Carolina weather was extremely dry, so we had no rain the entire 3 weeks we were there. And with the elevation we were camping at, it wasn't really that unbearably hot. It was in the low 80s at our elevation. We did a lot of mountain biking and hiking. I had a lot of fond memories there, but that's when the whole truck life kind of started to weigh on me a little bit. The reason why this dream life of living out of the truck started to weigh on me a little bit was, like I mentioned, I had a full-time job. So I'm not going to sit here and whine about having a full-time job when some people don't even have a job, and I was lucky enough to do this. But to give you a little bit of a backstory here, I was spending my weekdays working like a normal person while living out of the truck. So I'd make dinner out of the back of the truck, have a little fire for light, handle using the bathroom outside and disposing of that the correct way, So that started to weigh on me just because day-to-day life was a little bit harder. But then on the weekends, it really started to weigh on me. My weekends weren't spent doing fun things that I love to do, like hiking and mountain biking. My weekends were spent prepping for the next week. So we would then leave our camp spot, worry about having that camp spot again, because like I said, I needed to have service. So we had spots picked out that I had service to connect to during the weekday. Then I would dispose of our trash at local state parks. And at this time, after about a week, I would have about 2 to 3 bags. So my off-road garbage thing I have was about full. We would wash our clothes at a local laundromat. I would take a shower at a state park that we were disposing our garbage at. I would then refill 16 gallons of water, which would take a little bit of time, and I would have to go get groceries. The normal day-to-day chores that you would expect to do when you're living at a house, I had to do on my weekends, not during the week, because I couldn't leave my spot and risk losing that spot with service. So all my weekends were wrapped up doing chores rather than actually enjoying the area and doing the things that I loved. Let's take a little break here. Do me a big favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It means a ton to me. I'm on a road to 10,000 subscribers. I hope you guys are enjoying this video explaining how my year has been, because it's been a crazy one. So from the mountains of North Carolina, we headed across North Carolina, about a 9-hour drive, and it is a very flat state if you go directly across it. We traded our mountain views for the beaches of Outer Banks again. Here we spent a week in an Airbnb because the campground that I had picked out on the beach actually got flooded out a week before and our spot was canceled. So we were able to get a cheap Airbnb for like $45 a night, which was awesome. Stayed there for a week, and I would work during the day, and then we would pack up in the truck and go sit on the beach for a few hours, and I would cook dinner out of the back of the truck on the beach. That was a great time, and we spent a lot of time just sitting on the beach. Into week 2 of our Outer Banks trip down there, my family was actually coming down. 2 years ago, all my family came together and we rented a big beach house for this week. We all met there and it was a great time. But there was a hiccup. Ashley's family was coming down too, and my friends and her friends. This was because Ash and I were planning on getting married on the beach, and that is exactly what we did. We ended up getting married on our beach during our family vacation. It was an amazing night. Everything went perfect, but it was crazy. Obviously, after that day, Ash and I are married. It was a crazy vacation and a crazy 2 weeks down at the Outer Banks. After the Outer Banks trip, it was time to head back up to PA. I had some more truck upgrades to do. Can you imagine? As we're up in PA, I would get packages shipped to my parents' house and Ashley's parents' house, and we were using these areas for our hub. At my parents' house, I was getting my brand new bumper shipped there. I waited 6 months to get this bumper. My dad and I installed this bumper, we hooked up the lights, and it looked fantastic. I think it really stepped up the whole look of the truck, and I love this bumper. And I realized a front bumper was pretty necessary as I'm spending most of my time driving the truck. The risk of me running into something or hitting an animal was extremely high, and when your truck is your house, you do not want any downtime. So after the bumper got on, I just had enough time to get it on before Overland Expo East. So Ash and I headed down south again, down into Virginia for Overland Expo East, where I met some awesome friends from Guild Outfitters, met some fans at Overland Expo. It was pretty interesting. That was a weird moment for me because I'm a smaller YouTuber and this was the first time this happened, so definitely weird, but a really cool experience that I won't forget. At Overland Expo, we checked out some awesome rigs, saw some really cool trucks and cool builds. It was an awesome experience. Had some beers, then we stayed at a motel that night. After a night at motel, we headed up north and camped out a few nights on the mountains of Virginia, where it started to snow, and Ashley and I started to get weighed down from the truck life experience. Things were becoming extremely difficult as we didn't expect it to start snowing already. We planned on spending winter down in Florida to hide out from the snow, but this wasn't the case because it was already snowing at the beginning of October. This started the talks between Ashley and I about buying a house to have a home base for to come back to, because bouncing back to our parents and not having a home base was starting to really weigh down on us. At this point, we have not had a house for just about a year, and we were staying at Ashley's parents' house and living out of the truck. We ended up surprising my mom because our family thought that we were going to head down into Tennessee for October and then down into Florida for winter. But we snuck back up into PA and surprised my mom just by walking in her house. It was pretty funny. We told her that we're starting to look at buying a house in Pennsylvania, and she was ecstatic. None of our family thought that we were going to be living in PA. The reason why we picked PA was for a few different reasons. One, in our travels at the East Coast, nothing really felt like home. We didn't have any interest with living out west or Midwest, so we knew we wanted to stay on the East Coast. But all the states that we traveled to that we thought we might want to live at didn't feel like home, and I think the reason for that was because none of our family and friends were there. So on our journey up to PA after getting married, we were extremely happy to be back in PA. It made us very happy to be with our family again, and it's the only spot that actually felt like home. So that's why we decided to start looking for houses in PA. Well, to wrap up this video, guys, because it's probably getting really long here and it's been a crazy year, Asher and I ended up buying a house, and now we have a home base. So as you guys can tell, it has been a crazy year for me. I'm so happy I was able to share these moments with you guys and take you on this crazy journey. Thank you for all the support. I hope this video was entertaining. Probably not, probably a little bit boring, I would imagine, but just want to do a recap like I did last year. Do me a big favor, guys. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're on a road to 10,000 subscribers. We're so close. You know the outro is always the same. Also, check this video out right here. It's pretty good, and I'll see you in the next one.